Welcome to the Evolve, Move, Play podcast. I'm your host, Rafe Kelly. At Evolve, Move, Play, our aim is to help you cultivate a more meaningful life and a more heroic self by reconnecting deeply to movement, mindfulness, nature, and community practices. This podcast was created to bring the best and brightest minds in all of these subjects together to better understand how we can create an empowering and sustainable ecology of practices for personal growth. If you're interested in being part of this ongoing conversation, the best way you can support us and get involved is by joining our Podcast Plus membership. By joining, you will get backstage access to our live podcast airing once a month, as well as a private question and answer session with me and our guests after the show. On top of that, you'll get access to our thriving online community where you can continue these deeper discussions with people all over the world who are just as passionate and curious about these topics as you. More details about the membership, as well as the link to get signed up, are in the description below. And whether you can join, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you can be notified every Monday when our episodes drop. Thanks so much for your support, and we hope you enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome back to the Evolve, Move, Play podcast. This week, my guest is none other than Sebastien Foucan. So if you're unaware, Sebastien Foucan was one of the founders and really early pioneers of parkour. He went on to things like act in the movie Casino Royale, where he was chased by James Bond. He was on the Madonna tour. He's been around really doing parkour since the 1980s, early 1990s. And he's carved a super unique philosophical and artistic vision of movement practice. And we share so much. I met Sebastian just last year, just online through our Embodied Movement Summit. More on that later. But we really found a ton of common ground in what we were doing. And we've had him on the podcast before. Check out that earlier episode if you haven't. But Sebastian, I think, is one of the most creative thinkers in the movement community. And he has this beautiful symbolic way of describing the different aspects of movement training and what's important to him. So I really love this conversation. We go deep into the idea of parkour as a form of play and why that's important. We go deep into how we sustain and change practice as we age. We go deep into the history, and really particularly we go deep into the role of martial arts and martial arts philosophy in his practice and how he's developed his approach, but also in my practice and the intersection between them. We talk a little bit about aliveness and the rise of what he calls sparring in parkour, which is like world chase tag, and which, I'm a huge advocate of. So that's super fun. And we talk about how parkour is like a heroic journey and the different aspects of creating a heroic character and how those are accessed through parkour. So, this is a lot of my core themes, and it's amazing for me to get to chat with one of the founders of the discipline and find that we have so much in common in the way that we have been changed by this. So it's just an amazing conversation. It's super enjoyable. As I mentioned earlier, though, big news this week. So we have the Embodied Movement Summit. Seb was at the Embodied Movement Summit. The Embodied Movement Summit is going to go live again. It's going to be available for purchase. You guys can get in and be part of the community around this starting in 2 weeks. So put that on a date on your calendar, get ready. Seb was there. Not only that, John Vervaeke was there. Kelly Storette was there. Paul Check was there. Marlo Fiskin was there. Josef Frusik was there. Laurent Piemontesi from the Yomakazi. Like the list goes on. It's an absolutely amazing list of people. You don't want to miss it. So make sure that you are signed up and looking out for those emails. We look forward to having you in the Embodied Movement Summit. But first of all, we really look forward to sharing this conversation with Sebastien Foucan. Enjoy. Sebastian, it's been like a year since we spoke, hasn't it?
Oh my God. Yeah, time's flying, man.
Yeah. But it was so enjoyable to get to know you a lot last year and to discover that kind of we had a lot of similarities in we were thinking about our approach to practice and the relationship of parkour to the development of the self. So I'm curious just how things are with your practice right now. Like it's sanctuary winter time.
Yes. Yeah, we're between we almost finish autumn, I think. Yeah, we finish autumn. Now we enter winter.
Yeah.
It's nice. That's all I can say. It's really nice. Compared to last year, I think last year I made a mistake. I would say a huge mistake because I literally hibernate a little bit too long. So, with my theory, like, okay, we can do, and I think I did probably something like 3 months with barely doing nothing, but I felt it. I think for the first time I felt it. So I made a new adjustment. So I don't completely stop. It's just like, usually I don't completely stop, but this time last time I really stopped. I really test my, my theory, but I think now, just for me, I don't know for others, but as far as I'm concerned, I would never ever stop again.
I've heard from people in other sports who are a little bit older that you can sustain a really high performance late into life, but what you can't do very well is take large breaks.
Yeah.
It's like the older you get, the more consistent you have to be in order to prevent fall off.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, definitely.
How's the let me I'm going to go in a different direction, actually. So I don't think we've talked about this, but I love this idea that in Japanese martial arts, I know you're a huge fan of the Asian martial arts. In Japanese martial arts, they distinguish between Jitsu and Do, right? So you have Jujitsu and Judo, and you have Aikijitsu and Aikido. And that Do at the end of the word is the same word as Dao, right? So the Dao De Ching, the way, right?
Yeah.
So Jiu-jitsu means the practice of yielding, basically. But judo means the yielding way. And so I conceptualize the martial arts as having these aspects of the jitsu, which is the body of techniques, and the do, which is the transformation, the way that you're trying, the journey you're trying to take yourself through.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when we do something, when we start, you talk about the age of fire, right? When we're young and we're intense, it's like so easy to become absorbed completely with the jitsu, right? Can I do a bigger jump? Can I do another technique? Can I do it, et cetera, et cetera? And I think that ultimately what we find is that what's most meaningful to us is the way that it transforms, is how it becomes a way, how any practice becomes a way. So I wanted to start with that idea. Had you ever thought about the idea of parkour as a do as opposed to a jitsu, like parkour jitsu versus parkour do? And how you've seen that evolve?
It's interesting because normally they're intertwined, both of them.
Of course.
And I started a little bit of time with Jitsu, if we can say that, a lot of practice.
Yeah.
But then pretty early, I moved to Do, to more like a path and a meaning beyond just a set of move or set of repetition. And early stage, because it's not in alignment with my age of fire, because age of fire is supposed to be fire, Yeah. But for me, at the age of fire, I was already water in my mindset. Now, the reason why, we can find many reasons, or because I was too scared to do that, or I didn't have enough skills to do this, often it's like this: either you're injured or either you're not skilled enough. So you still love it, so you find your path. I was more mature, into brackets, with the concept of philosophy, and I was more into that. So I always, from the beginning, try to find a meaning of what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah, the meaning, that's ultimately what it's about. So my sense has been, and I've talked to you about this, that parkour in its development came to be a kind of do for everybody who started in the beginning, before it hit the internet, right?
Yeah.
As that community was developing, it was really more about the do than it was about the jitsu. But when we saw it, when I saw a video of David, like, it called to something philosophical in me too, but I couldn't absorb his philosophy through the video, right?
Yeah.
Or your philosophy through video. So what we saw was the techniques. We saw a Kong vault, we saw a drop, we saw a backflip, And a million internet arguments were born when we saw that backflip. So we saw the body of techniques and we wanted to go collect the techniques.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like for me, it's been an evolution back to the Do. And I think, there's so much commonality between the way that we've done that. But how have you seen that cultivate in the community? And then, I'm curious to hear both how that's changed over the years for you. Has there been waves in that as well? And then do you see the community coming back to the Do or moving further from it?
It's interesting. I don't look at the community much, even I'm kind of always gravitate around, but I'm in a journey of self-development.
Yeah.
So what the community does for me is they do what they're doing. It evolve in terms of technique, and I think it evolve also in terms of maturity and of the meaning, if I can say it largely. But it's not the place where I observe, because I always thought like life is larger than parkour, and parkour is a teeny tiny bubble. I often say that with the people who are next to me. I say, like, what is interesting is if you speak with people in parkour, they know everything about parkour, all the famous people, but you just go to your neighbors and they've got their bubble. And in their bubble, parkour is non-existent. They don't even know what is parkour. They don't know what is the philosophies. They don't know. And in the mind of someone who's living parkour so vividly, it's just like, are you serious? Like, parkour is huge. And for this person, it's like, it's not that huge because we're just very close in the house, but I've never heard about that, and it can be surprising. It's like some people are in UK, like they've got cricket. I know nothing about cricket, like literally nothing, but it's huge. Cricket, it's huge. But
I'll tell you, you've probably seen this story or had this. I don't know if have you ever completed on Ninja Warrior?
Yeah, I did Ninja Warrior. Yeah.
Okay. So, Have you ever been talking to somebody about what you do and they're like, just like blinking at you vacantly, unable to understand what you do, and then say, "Oh yeah, I was on Ninja Warrior," and they're like, "Oh my God, you were on Ninja Warrior!"
Yeah, you see,
like that was one afternoon on a TV show that I'm not very impressed by, right? Whereas 17 years of my life have been dedicated to this. I've brought people together across the entire world, built gyms, none of that matters. You're on a TV show, right?
It's interesting how the world is. Like I say, for me, I always say that but now I'm used to, so I can understand the bubble concept. It's like everyone living there, they've got a teeny tiny universe. Yeah. And in your universe, you take everything, it has a meaning for you. It can be anything. Someone can be a carpenter. They say, "Oh, for me, it's carpenter and BMX." Yeah. And nothing else. Like, what? And then he can talk to you about a lot of stuff, about books, people that inspired him, and so on and so on. However, with the Do, with the practice, with practice help you to understand the Do, but the Do is universal.
Camera problems.
Yeah, I can see you freeze. Okay, you're back. Yeah. As I say, it's like practice can make you understand something about the Do. Mm-hmm. But for me, the Do is universal, is everything. This is through the path, you can speak with anyone who is in a journey of self-development.
Yeah.
Through the practice, it allows you, like a ladder, to get to a certain level of consciousness, of maturity, kind of what I say, maturity level. It's like, okay, because like, as I say, you need to go from roots to fire to water, water to air, just to get, oh. But someone who've never practiced, if you start to speak to this person via the technique, they was like, what are you talking about? But now if you speak with this person via what you understood, and with the voice, with the path and the way or the Do, people say, "Oh yeah, absolutely. I've got that. I'm a writer, and I've the blah, 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 blah." And then you connect.
What I think is funny is how even parkour athletes really have a hard time talking to each other about what they did in parkour. It's very difficult to actually talk about. You'll be like, okay, so I did this sal du chat or this gong, right? And then you're like, well, so it was so many feet across, and then there's so much feet down, and then there was a grippy rail, and there's only so much run up, and it's like it takes forever to try to get an idea of why it was challenging.
Yeah.
And I've had some of these conversations where you're just sort of like awkwardly trying to describe this physical thing to somebody. And they just can't really get it because you had to be there. You had to physically see it or experience it to really understand. Yeah. But on the flip side, I can talk to yogis and surfers and jiu-jiteros about the self-transformation that happens through parkour, and they get it, right?
Yeah.
I can talk to meditators, and it's like,
exactly.
It's a language that we can all speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's almost something like a path we need to go, we want to go through, but it's, can I say, it's instinct. You feel like this is like the way to go. But again, for me, I call it like it's self-development. For me, everything is about self-development. For my parkour journey evolved so much. So now it's like, it's part of me, but I think I extract everything that was unnecessary for me. And I just use what is useful for my own, it's almost like I say, it's like a Bruce Lee kind of concept, but Bruce Lee will take it from other people. However, it's the path. And for me, it's just like, it took like almost all the time to be very strong with what you want to do and to not fall into this idea of wanting to have more and to do more complex move and pushing further and further, just to say, okay, I'm enough. With what I've got is enough. Now where is the next path for me to continue my journey and to grow?
Yeah, I found that a really interesting question, because my philosophy is a kind of a generalist philosophy, right? Like once if you decide that the reason that you jump is because it's meaningful, then the question is the practice of jumping delivering the meaning that you're looking for, or is there some other practice that would be more valuable at this stage for your development? There's a point of just if you look at your training, you look at how someone responds to physical training in general. There's a point of diminishing returns. So it's like you go out once a week and you practice jumps, and the next week you're a little bit better. And then you say, okay, well, if once a week makes me better, then I'll go twice a week. So you go, twice a week you're jumping, and you get better week to week than you did when you only do once a week. And maybe you go to 3 days a week and you're still getting more value from the third day, but it's not as big of a change as from the first to the second day.
Yeah. And
then maybe you go to 4 days of jumping a week, and actually you're only getting as much better as you were getting when you're doing 3 days of jumping.
Mm-hmm.
So you get frustrated. You think, okay, I need to train even harder. So you go to 5 days a week, and then you break your ankle.
Yeah.
Right. Because so you have this, and it doesn't have to be that specific amount of days. Right.
Yeah.
Some people train. I know guys who train 6 days a week, 7 hours a day.
How old are they?
How old are they? Young. Yeah. But my point is, people shouldn't get attached to the numbers that I'm using. Right. My point was just that for every athlete and in every situation, there's a point at which when you add more, you get exactly the same amount back.
Yeah.
And there's a point at which when you add more, you're getting less back for what you put in. And then there's a point at which for everything you put in more, you actually are hurting yourself and taking away. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not something in the world of sport we talk a lot, because in the world of sport there is a kind of an illusion of you train to get better, and there is no end. You can always go like as far as you as you go. Like even like Bruce Lee quote, like he says, like there is no limit, only plateaus. You know what I mean? Like, but in reality of a human being, we do have limit. As a chain of people, there is no limit. It doesn't matter how you progress, but just like pass on and pass on and pass on. But as an individual, like there is no way like I can train, and at some point now I can slam dunk, and now I can 360 slam dunk. Now I can jump over the completely the basket, and then now I can go over the house and over. Nah. There is a physiological limit for me as an individual, and because also, as I explained last time, there is a curve. Like people need to understand in terms of you as a person. Okay, age of roots. Age of water, no, age of roots, age of fire, age of water, age of air. But it goes like this. And some people, like, if you listen to sport, it goes like this. It's just like, no, this is not realistic. There is no, historically speaking, in the history of humankind, it's never happened. We definitely goes like this, and it goes like that. So the real question is like, okay, what am I training for? And what is my aim? Did I reach my peak? Yeah. Is that enough for me? But for example, parkour is such a baby in terms of its existence that the way it's practiced is, for me, it's immature. It's just like, okay, they practice. It's normal for Age of Fire, for anyone who's 20 to do what they do. Nothing wrong about that. This is in their DNA. This is what they do. But ultimately speaking, if it was a martial art or a do, something to follow, it's just like, this is the question people need to ask themselves. It's like, how far do I go? Is that enough for me? Or what is my practice? What is the practice? What is the mature practice? At which point I practice and I say, okay, now this practice, I don't progress physiologically much. I maintain, but how can I say that? But it still procure to me something in a philosophical way, also in terms of growth, in terms of like maturity and something like that. And that's something you
don't get to jump farther every time you train now, right? Yeah. You're not going to break the jumps, maybe even that you've broken before, right? Yeah. There are jumps that are receding into the past. You're saying, well, probably not going to do that again. But it doesn't matter if you go to the practice and you come out well, I think of two things in this. I think of connection and transformation. Connection is what is yielded in the moment. It's like, I was there with the tree and I felt deep love.
Yeah.
And that was it. That's enough. Right.
Yeah.
But also I want to say, even if I'm not going to be able to jump a bigger jump or whatever the next time, I'm somehow moving my character more towards the person who I want to be. That I'm a little bit more courageous, a little bit more self-aware, a little bit more loving, a little bit more able to see a problem and address it. Right. Yeah. That's ultimately what I'm trying to get out of my practice. Mm-hmm. I still want to jump farther, but but not for much longer.
You.
The writing's on the wall, right? Like, it's like I actually just hired a personal trainer recently, and I was like, here's my goals. And I was like, almost all these physical goals are just to reach the highest peaks that I've reached in the past. I'm like, I want to get there again and hold on to it for a little while. Like, I'm trying to jump. I used to standing broad jump 9 feet 9 inches. Right, that's the best I ever did. It's like, if I can do that again, it'll be great. I ain't trying it for 11 feet. Right, that's for the 12-year-old. That's for the future. It's like in Star Wars. It's the place you have to go. It's like it's for you. It's like I need to go over there, and I'll be back, and I will tell you what is the conclusion of my story. But everyone has the story, and no one can judge you for what you decide to do, because only you go and come back and say, okay, and then what is it? And then you're going to say da 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 da. Yeah. But you have to go through this journey. We all have to go to a certain journey. That's another way that I like to think about a story, is about the practices. It's a way to live your life such that you're writing the story of your life that you would want to read at the end, right?
Yeah.
You want to say, I'm happy with this story. I did the things that were deeply meaningful to me, and
Yeah, but other people will read it because we won't be here. So if you do the story of your life, once the book is finished, it's for other people to read it. That's why it's so important, like you say, about the connection. That's why it's so important to live it, to live what you do every single time, because otherwise you don't, like I say, some people will live in, how can I say that? For example, Van Gogh, was depressed and everything. I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve. I wanted to be a great painter. I wanted to be among the best and the best. And he didn't even realize he was. So he just passed away. And now I must say, oh my God, it was just amazing. It's just but only us, we're here, we can talk about this. But for him, while he was doing it, when he was surfing his own wave, he was not even conscious, man, you're surfing the wave.
Yeah. So I think about this idea that there's a balance in a practice between being, right, and becoming, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to practice that as consistently as possible.
Mm-hmm.
It delivers something inherently of value just by accessing. It doesn't matter how. It doesn't matter. The future doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
I was reading a book called Zen and the Art of Archery by Eugene Herrigel, and he was saying his Zen teacher, he had a Zen archery teacher, right?
Okay, yeah.
So he went to Japan and he wanted to learn Zen, and they were like, well, you can't really learn Zen without learning. You have to learn a physical skill to learn Zen. You have to go deep.
Yes. The ladder again. You need something. Yeah.
And so he's learning archery and chooses archery. His wife is doing flower arrangements and stuff, tea ceremonies. And he asks some question to the master about it. And the master says, he asks him, why the archery? What's the purpose of this archery? And the master says, the perfect practice is aimless. It's nothing. It goes nowhere. And it's weird because that's true and it's also wrong, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Because if you're there all the time because of where you're aimed at, then you're not there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I see this. This is something I see happen so often. And I've done this to myself, right?
Yeah.
You set something on the horizon and you spend all of your time trying to reach that point on the horizon. And you've trained yourself to only see what's on the horizon. So maybe you reach your goal and you just reset the next goal, right? Yeah. It's just the next time to, you say, okay, I used to say strong is the next thing, right? It's I'm strong. Okay. So I can do a muscle up, but now 5 muscle ups is strong. Now I can do 5 muscle ups, 10 muscle ups is strong. Right. But that means that I'm never saying, it feels good to be able to do a muscle up.
Yes. But I think that's part of the journey. Appreciation. When I talk about fire, water, you start to questioning about the meaning. Okay. Now you say, okay, I want something deeper. But then after there is something that's where the master talk to you about stuff. Sometimes very hard to grasp, exactly like the archery. It's when they start to touch the art of let it go. It's almost it disappears. It's almost like a ghost. So no, but he needs to have a meaning. So no, he has no meaning. It's whoa. It's it's very hard to grasp because now we start to touch another realm, something like the unknown, like a place what, we're going to be gone. Yeah, but what's next? Everyone can speculate. Everyone can say whatever they want. However, it's what's next? And I believe everything is linked at some point. We're not here to try to figure out what is after. Like you said, future doesn't exist. It's not about that. We have to leave everything through the process. But there is a way of doing this and appreciate it. When you do balance on railing, you never stuck. It's not it's always ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh. You see? And I think this is what it is. The whole journey is like that. It's to find the balance. Like you say, sometimes you have it. Sometimes I nail it. Sometimes I don't nail it. Sometimes I'm injured. Sometimes, and it goes And that's what is it to be alive, to be honest. It's just, this is it. And whatever the practice you choose, you experience that. And I think the lucky are those who can step back and appreciate this. For example, like for me, because I meditate and stuff, I'm always constantly observing my situation and what I'm doing, and I'm very appreciative of my situation, not only the good, but as well as the bad as well. Like literally, it's not easy, but I understood the concept of balance, and I know it's balanced. Just I will give an example. For example, there is a moment where, because I divorced and I don't see my children, I was thinking like, oh, I need to find a way to see them like as much as possible, like to get all the time. And that was wrong until I realized all I need to do is to be available when they need me, not to be here all the time, just to be available when they need me. That's the balance. That's almost like the good thing. They call me, I'm here. It's not happen all the time, but in my mindset, it's like whatever I do is they call me, gone, I'm with them. This just with them.
Whenever they
that's the balance with them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm struck by the idea that I think there's almost a Zen koan in what we were speaking of earlier, which is sort of like to realize the aim of the practice, you have to allow the practice to become aimless sometimes.
Yeah. It's but every martial art does this. I don't know if you see Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah.
You know, when you scroll the stuff, it's like, oh, but there is nothing in. It's just like, it's empty. We always the concept of emptiness. And I say, yeah, but this is it. This is the thing, like the reflection, it's you and stuff like all this kind of, everything gravitate around that, about this kind of, every time you see something with martial art, it's always linked. The ultimate, the highest point is always like, that was so simple. Like it's almost like empty or without taste. So I always say that the best is always close to without taste, like water, anything you can do is always like tasteless. Like or very subtle in taste, you know, like it's not just like very rich. It's like evanescent. We would say in French. I don't know if you've got something like this in English.
Evanescent. Same in English. So
and don't talk to a fire about that, because they will say that's total bullshit. What the fuck they're talking about? They're like cuckoo, you know. But yeah, that's it. This is why every step is necessary.
Yeah. So you discovered something in parkour, and it ignited for you things that were already incipient in you, right? You were already watching Dragon Ball Z and Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee and all this stuff, right? And you found in parkour a way to access, you know, it's like cultivation. That's you said self-development, self-cultivation. You know, there's that whole genre of martial arts literature in China, cultivation literature, right? It's all about people building their powers up. So you found a way in parkour, and then you've become someone who meditates, right? And you know, you've studied the martial arts to some degree, and
the things for me, it didn't start with parkour.
Yeah,
it started with drawing and art. I've always been fascinated by drawing and art, like art. This is a thing. I'm very sensitive to art, and my journey of mastery. I didn't say I'm a master. Was through art, and the drawing made me understood stuff in parkour which I didn't have the ability to understand yet, which my friend had climbed the ladder before me, so they were kind of a certain level where I said, but the difference between drawing and the physical aspect is the physical aspect, you can definitely hurt yourself. You know what I mean? So there is a kind of the risk factor, which is not because you understood something with drawing or with poetry that you will translate straight away to parkour, because there is an element of physicality and a risk of hurting yourself I had to overcome. So for me, it's definitely started with art first. But art made me understand a lot with philosophy. more than parkour, because at the time when I started, again, it can be subject to debate, but there is no philosophy. No one was talking about philosophy. It was pure Jitsu. It was like train.
Train. It was an ethic of training, right?
Yeah. No, yeah. It was just, this is it. How to become strong. Train. like martial art. Like you see, like a Jackie Chan movie. It's just like, of course, later on you can get the philosophy. But the whole movie you're going to watch, he has to carry stuff through the stairs and all this stuff. Kill Bill is the same. She has to like, Then after you can chit chat and say, yeah, we know what, because But in reality, train.
So I've been speaking a lot with people who are kind of thinking about meaning, right? You know, my friend John, he talks about the meaning crisis, this idea that fundamentally one of the things we face in our society is actually that people are increasingly left with the sense that their lives are meaningless. And why do we have this experience? And so there's this broader conversation around how do we recultivate meaning? And meditation, mindfulness practices, dialoguing, community, narrative, understanding stories, all these things, art, it's all part of the conversation. But what I've been sort of advocating is that it has to go down to the body. And one of the big problems is that we've gotten so disconnected from the body. And this is why I think parkour is so profound, because I think it is.
Yes.
It's the original way. Like there's roughhousing and other things, but like you have to start by exploring how your body moves in the environment. It's kind of.
Yeah. But even we say parkour, but for me, it's like play is the original way.
Yes.
Literally. Yeah. Because parkour is the closest physically you can have, like the purest, where there is no artifact, like stuff around. It's just literally parkour. Like we call it parkour because it's easier. But in reality, for me, it's a physical activity which called parkour is the one, like everything you said, but it include everything, you know, like because people will say, oh, but fighting is not parkour. Yeah, but it's included. It's play. It's like there is a serious play at some point, but it's still a link. So it shouldn't have been detached. It has to be. There has to be. I wish I would not come up with another word because enough with my. That's
what I've done, right?
But you know what I mean. It's like
exactly.
Generally speaking, it's more like I agree with you. It has to be through like the physicality. Because we start to tend to go too much like to the side, that physicality, and parkour does this a lot. It just reconnect you so much with the physicality within yourself, but also with your environment. This is so powerful.
So you are becoming philosophical through your pursuit of art, right?
Yeah.
There were lessons that you couldn't learn until you expose yourself to the intensity of the physical practice, right? Of the potential for risk, the feeling that you can get, the felt sense of what it is to push.
Yeah, basically, yeah. When I draw, and I'll try to explain. When I draw, it's a fantastic exercise for the brain. Mm-hmm. Like in terms of like imagination and projection and materialization, anything's being created, started in the mind, then being drawn, and then being put into reality. But when I train, I transform. It's the process of transformation. There is a transformation through drawing, which is more, we call it evolution, but training is literally shaping yourself to the related to your environment into something you desire. So this is, and then almost like sculpting. You're sculpting yourself, but not only physically, mentally. So that it's very, very deep. That's why when we use parkour, it's like, yeah, parkour, but it's bigger than that. Like, it's like, I love parkour, but I hope the world doesn't make it into a box and then we just take this, because it's with what we're talking now. Yeah, we're talking about something like wider.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I call my stuff evolved move play, right? Because for me, there was this fundamental realization that parkour was a form of play, and that what made it so profound and transformational was actually that it just partook of this, not just, but it at its root, it was partaking in a fundamental form of physical play that all of us would inherently experience in a natural setting growing up. Mm-hmm. Sorry, my battery's about to die, so I forgot to plug in. Okay. So, but obviously we don't only play by moving through the environment. We also play by manipulating things, playing with objects, and by moving with other people. Yeah. And if you look at play research, if you read research on play, they have these definitions. There's locomotor play. It's parkour, right? There's manipulative play or object-oriented play. Yeah. And there's rough and tumble play. And they're all aligned. And I've thought of my stuff as kind of like, you can go lift weights, right? And lifting weights is really developmental for the body, but it doesn't tap you into the depth and to the origin of play in the same way that parkour does. It doesn't have the same capacity for creativity. You go do martial arts, but martial arts have a formalization to them. And there's something that wasn't quite there in the martial arts for me. There's also some really beautiful things and some things we can learn from, but there was something there. So I've actually thought of it as like taking the base code of parkour and expanding the set of apps that it applies to, right? Yeah. So now we have the parkour approach to playing with objects, the parkour approach to
I think,
to rough
talking about martial art, I think, for example, Bruce Lee had, probably there is other people, but the most famous was Bruce Lee. And he had the audacity to play within the environment of martial arts, to take what is useful and reject what is useless. This is literally him saying, oh, you know what? This is the code and this is the code. I'm going to break the code because I just want to express myself and experiment as much as I want for my own self-development. That's exactly what we do with parkour. Well, what you do also with your concept and everything. It's exactly the same thing. It's like, you know what? I don't want to be like trapped with code and whatever, you know. This feels right to me. I take that. Whoever want to join me, but we're going to have fun. Even sometimes it can be serious, but we're going to have fun. And I love that. I respect that.
Yeah. The ability to play with. I have a friend, Sherry Aziz, who said to me something really interesting once. She said, it doesn't have to be fun to be play. Mm-hmm. Which I thought was very strange, but it seemed profound. It's like play is this kind of active exploration, this openness. And what has happened in a lot of martial arts is this kind of descent into dogma, where there's the one right way to do it, and there's not space to explore. Rather than looking at it, you could look at a martial arts situation very much like a parkour situation. Everyone that you're against is like a unique set of obstacles, right? And every situation that you find yourself in. In fact, I've noticed this, that like you can look at it and you can say, when I'm sparring with somebody, I'm doing parkour because I'm locomoting, having to move my body. I'm having to create a solution in my body that allows me to move through this space safely to achieve my goal. I'm trying to get from A to B, right? I'm trying to get from where I'm standing to having hit you in the face. And I want to overcome the obstacle of you trying to hit me on the way in. And I want to create this capacity for dexterous movement, problem solving in that. And then I also want to extract the general ability to be a better problem solver, to know who I am better from that situation, just like parkour. So tell me a little bit about, I'm curious to hear more about your own experience with the martial arts. Like, I'm fascinated by the fact that it seems to be such an undertold part of the history of parkour. Like I've seen, footage of one of my favorite parkour videos is Parkour de Combattant, right?
Yeah.
David and Stefan doing Via Vudao, I think. And
okay, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, you haven't seen this video?
No.
No, there's a video of wow, that's surprising me. But there's a video with David and Stefan Vigru, where they're sparring. They're doing like push hand sparring, and they're hitting pads. And then they're training in Fontaine and Bleu.
Okay.
Which of course is like my favorite early spot in the parkour history, right? And I think David didn't want it out there for some reason. I'm not really sure why. But I don't think it was kind of it kind of popped up, and like people would share it behind the scenes, so you had to kind of like know somebody who had access to it. You can find it on YouTube now, I think. But
I think at this period I didn't gravitate much around this environment, if I do remember. Yeah.
So I know there was that, you know, in Julie Angel's book, they talk about Jan also having that kind of background, and, you know, punching people in the stomach as part of the tests of your strength. And you've always talked about the role of Bruce Lee and stuff. So I'm curious to hear just more about how the martial arts have impacted your thinking and how that kind of developed through your practice of parkour. And if you want to speak to the rest of what you saw as well, that's great, but you know, it's up to you.
If I want to speak about what?
Like what you saw with the people you were practicing with, or what you know about what else was going on, but if that's up to you.
Yeah, I usually, I'm not speaking about the others. I know David practice. I think it's like, we'll have this idea of being able to defend yourself, but there is nothing really related to parkour, generally speaking. It's more like as a human being, you know, like when you're young, like you want to be able to fight, like also to defend yourself, you know, kind of stuff. And that's, for some or not, it push you to, I want to learn something. Like boxing, judo, whatever. Based on your knowledge, if you're knowledgeable, you start to understand like, oh, judo is very, very effective. So to certain condition. However, I don't know the journey of the others. I know a little bit what they've done, but it wasn't a shared journey.
We're sharing that part.
For me, I was on a quest of finding a master. So finding a master for me, master from martial art. That's how it started. So Miyagi and stuff like that. So always like thinking, when I see someone Asia, like from Asia, he's got knowledge. You know, like, that was stupid. You know, like when you're kids, just like that's it. For me, it's a whole. He looks wise to me. From all the movies that I kept watching, maybe like, you know, it's like almost you guess. Like, oh, no, he was just a normal person. And this one he's got something he doesn't want to show. Like, I think it was in a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. I think which one is this one? Bloodsport.
Yeah.
You know, it's exactly the same thing you get, but it's ingrained in you. So in my head, like, maybe I'm going to be lucky. I'm going to find someone who can do Kamehameha and is going to teach me this. You know, it's just like, this is how it was. So starting like this, also my lack of, I need to have something to also add into my journey as parkour, because it wasn't enough, because I really felt in parkour, there is the battle in the mind, like in here. And I think maybe martial arts, someone will help me to unlock something. And that was my mindset. That's why I went to a place called Budo Store in Paris, where they've got all this old book for martial art, and you got all the technique, like all this stuff. And I spent hours and hours trying to find something like a deadly technique of this, and the technique, the iron vest of, oh my God, there is so many books. Like, it's funny because now it's only memory, but I wish I film everything, because we didn't have iPhone and stuff like that. For me, it's like, I really get into like I remember the smell of the book. It's like, okay, oh my God, this book. And I thought I'm going to find something like, I'm going to practice this technique so much. And then after, you know, but anyway.
The deadly touch of dim mak.
Yeah, you see that? You see, they always did this. It's almost like a myth, and you start to believe it. Oh yeah, there is something. And I was on my quest, my personal quest, on doing that. I didn't advertise it. I will do anything to find the master. To be honest, that was my thing. And on the journey, I try to find the master physically. There is also the journey of the philosophical aspect. Like all Tao Te Ching, like Lao Tzu, the Agakure, and so on, like everything. C'est comment il s'appelle? I forgot the name. The samurai, the blind samurai. What do you say?
Musashi, who's the author of the.
Exactly. Voila. But this is it. I was so much into that. To the side of me drawing and me doing parkour with my friend David, that was my journey. But again, like sometime portrayed in the book of Julie, it looks like we were all together, which we're not. We were not. We share in the timeline. We share some moment together, but there is no such a thing like where we were all together. And for me, I've seen stuff through my personal journey when I spend a lot of time with David and also his cousin, and then people from Liz. We interact, our life we cross, but that's not the most important to me. That's why sometimes people talk about the origin. It's not the most important for me. It's just like it's very important to talk about the journey. Like you asked me about the martial art. It was like, I don't know, like it's a long journey, because after I think I tried to find a master. Then after I went really into Bruce Lee, because for me, Bruce Lee was the one, like literally, because he could articulate, he could demonstrate, and also he was a pioneer. He had a vision, and he wrote a book like so nice, Tao Jeet Kune Do, so clear, like you can understand, like, and that was that was, for me, it was my master. It was literally my master.
So Bruce Lee, in some sense, was the biggest influence for you philosophically in the way that you conceptualized parkour and free running.
Yeah, and he opened the door for everything, because through Bruce Lee, I understand. Even I was not so much into martial art, but I appreciate more, like I was looking for like Aikido, and then Reshiba because Bruce Lee talked about Aikido, and Judo because Bruce Lee say Judo is very, very efficient. If you're like in trouble, like if you fight by someone who's good in Judo, you're in big trouble. And to the extent, it's the same with Jiu-Jitsu. Don't mess around with the Jiu-Jitsu guys, because you see. And then after now because now I'm very I'm still learning with martial art. Even I'm not practicing. I should normally practice every day, but I'm not. I know Eskrima. I know a lot of stuff. I know Sistema. Now mixed martial art, Sambo. I watch. I look everything. I watch. But I'm fascinated by this. But it's not my journey, because my tool is I would say it's parkour, but really drawing is the side of me, like very important. People don't see, but it's the concept of label. People will label you. Oh, it's the guy from James Bond, but I'm more than that, Oh, he's one of the founder. Yes and no, it's like, I'm not against this, but this is not who I am,
It's not all of who you are.
Yeah, and I'm more a researcher. Like when we talk to each other, I find more connection with you, because I can see like, you like deep research. You like to, but it's not like researcher like, just to talk about. It's like you mean it, like about self-development and stuff like that. Yeah. That's where I felt more connection with you when I did that, more than story of the past and stuff like that. I say, but we were kids, It's like if you time machine, you see me, so what is he doing? He's trying, It's not like he's clever. No, it's just like I just saw a movie, Karate Kid, and why are you doing this? Because I saw it in the movie.
Yeah. We were all callow at some point, Yeah. I think I'll be 40 in a couple months. in February. For some reason, I was thinking about what it would be like to go back to the year I was born, right? You know?
Why do you want to do that?
I just thought, I was thinking about my kids, actually. I was thinking about, would I rather have raised my kids in the 80s or now? Like, are the problems that we had in the 80s worse or the problems we have now? It just became a fun thought experiment of like, how could I take like the martial arts that I know and the parkour that I know and go build a business in 1982? And I was like, man, I think I would smash it. That would be I think that'd be way.
People would think like you're the Bruce Lee of the era because you'd be a genius. Like, oh my God. Especially if you come with the skill you've got now. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
The level of knowledge would be like.
That'd be low-hanging fruit, man. Just find all the people selling their dim mock on black belt and, challenge them to fight.
Wow.
And then I could teach everyone I taught martial arts. I could teach them parkour, and that'd be a huge separator. So it'd be fun. And
you'll be the founder. So there won't be like too many people and too many stories. Like, okay, let's set the story straight. You're just like, is that from me?
I'll go to France and just teach you guys when you got started. I'll be like, okay, I know you're interested. I could teach you. So it's total different tack here. One of the things I've always wanted to talk to you about, which I'm curious about, is the role of movement in nature for you, because that's the biggest thing for me is this love of being in nature and how that transformed my practice. And there's something, the first video I saw was David in Lys, right? And in Fontainebleau.
Yeah.
Right. He was in both. And then there's this early video of him saying, whether in the man-made environment or in the natural environment. And yet somehow for years, every time I heard someone describe parkour, it was urban obstacle coursing.
Yeah.
Urban obstacle coursing. It's as if that part just got forgotten when it spread across the world.
Yes and no. Because it's like, because parkour, the popularity spread, okay? But you will never have everyone understood everything. It's like in any activities. So for me, I know it hasn't disappeared because there is more people who appreciate parkour in nature than there were back in the day. Because generally speaking, it's not completely true, but let's say we were 10 guys doing it. Mm-hmm. Out of 10 guys, only 10 guys is doing it in nature. But now, how many people do it in nature? There is quite a lot. So that's why for me it's like we would love to everyone understood the philosophy. We would love everyone to understood. No, it's not only urban. We'd love everyone not to do only tricks and flips and just think about whatever. But everyone has, like we said before, everyone has a journey and has to go there and to come back or do whatever they want. The more important is what do you believe and where you are. And I join you in this because the nature is so different. It's so powerful because you're connected with something alive.
Yeah.
With the concrete wall, it's just not like, it's not the same. It's different. It's completely different.
Yeah. I hope I can come over this year. I'm like, we got to spend some time with Sebastian in Hampstead Heath or go over to France and go to Fontainebleau together. Just has to happen. Yeah. We'll make it happen.
Yeah. I can spend like all day. Like for me, it's just like,
yeah.
And even like sometimes I do have flashes of in my head, like, but maybe it's my problem with watching too many master movie and stuff like that. I always have kind of this idea of disappear. Like, where is he? Oh, he's gone. Right. And then just live in the forest and far away and then away from everything, away from all the technology and stuff like that. I won't do it, but I find it cool. Like there is something sometimes I feel like that's super cool, man. It's like, it's out. It's like.
There's an up and coming UFC fighter, Yuri Prochazka, who's doing it, right? Like he lives in the woods, he's meditating next to a stream and getting in the cold water. And like, he's totally trying to do it. And he's a great fighter. Like he's an amazingly talented fighter. But I have an extra fondness for him because
I like people to the side like this. It's like a Rickson Gracie or so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When like, my God, like it was so martial arty speaking for me. Like, because now MMA fighters are amazing. Like the level is crazy, technique is everything. But there is kind of the philosophical aspect is not tapped into it. Not for everyone, but it's not tapped into it. But I do remember when I saw Rickson Gracie's, my God, this guy's got the total package. You know, like, you know, he's got the almost like Bruce Lee. You know, he can demonstrate. He can talk to you about the technique, the method, and how it works, how efficient it is. But also to the side is like he's got this samurai, the stuff we fell in love in the movie and everything. He's got this samurai side and this kind of idea of, yeah, you know what I mean, this spirituality of, and it's supposed not to be detached. And parkour has normally the same. When you talk about being in nature, being in nature with reconnect you with the spirituality. It's like, and then you become a samurai in.
Yeah, the spirituality. That's something that. Oh man, I've come to accept the idea of spirituality relatively recently, and in a very different way than a lot of people do. But people, when I started orienting my work really towards meaning and focusing on telling stories and having meditation as part of what we do, and you know, taking people into nature and giving them these really deep experiences, people started telling me that they thought of what I was doing as spiritual teaching. And like, I was like, I'm an atheist. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And I grew up as a hippie kid, right? So spirituality was always super, like, I just saw so many people abuse the term, right? And use it to take advantage of people.
Yeah.
And so I was always shy of that, but I was reading a book called Spell the Sensuous by David Abram, and I was talking and I was reading another book called What the Robin Knows by John Young, which is about how birds communicate and how you can kind of understand a lot about what's happening in the woods if you attune to the birds and how the kind of all of them are communicating. And I realized that you can think of all the birds in the woods as kind of like, they're like the voice of the forest. They're just like your brain is made up of all these separate neurons. It's like, that's a neural net of all these birds who are all communicating. And the way that they're communicating is telling you where the predators are in the environment and what's happening.
Yeah.
And what time of day it is, right? All these things are in the birds' language. I was like, oh, well, that's the spirit of the birds, right? And when I'm out in nature, I'm in communication with the spirits of the land. And that's extraordinary value to me. Right.
Absolutely. That's something, like, as I say, that's why I keep saying, like, I hope people understand I love parkour, but at the same time, I refuse to be trapped into the parkour shown on social media. You know what I mean? I love parkour with this entire, when you talk about nature, for example, like if you talk about this to someone who does parkour into the box, they'll say, oh, what is he talking about? But we're supposed to be linked with the environment. That's what this discipline is about. Yes. And when you go in nature, like you talk about the bird, but if we talk just about the branch of a tree, which is bigger than, like, it's massive. They're all interconnected. Now we talk about fungus and stuff like that. They're all it's huge. But it's not, whatever. We're not talking about, there's no the hippie. No. Okay, forget the hippie, whatever. It's real and it's true. It's not like, it's really connected. It's alive
in ways that we can measure by science, right? It's not some energy or vibration. It's the mycelium. It's the phytochemicals being released in the air that tell the trees to change how much tannins they have in their leaves, right?
It's there. It's right there.
Communication. And we evolved in it. So this is one of my ideas that I've been playing with for a long time, is that, like, the revolutionary aspect of parkour, one of them was that it was kind of a reconceptualization of the city as somewhere you could play in, like we evolved to play in nature.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful. It's amazing, right? Because it's like you get to be more human in more places.
Yeah. Reclaim the space.
But it's like, but at the same time, we evolved to do that movement in nature, right? That's where we came from. That's where I think of it as the most nourishment for our body is available.
Yeah.
There's more nourishment for you in the natural world than in the urban world. And there's more outside than inside, right?
Yeah, because also you connect from the roots. Like when you have your shoes, you're not connecting with the plant of your foot, but because we're so like, how can I say that? The society it's been shaped in a certain way, and we follow based on how you grew up, but we cut ourselves from who we are from the baby, like when we were a baby, like literally open to the world, like oxygen is very important, connected to the land is very important. We talk about the roots. Also, the oxygen is not the same. Like the air is not the same in the morning that it is during the day. There was something I wanted to say about this. It's just like, and when we're always in the city is also the nature, but it's a creation we've done. And we try to do our creation and to surpass the power of nature. And we can't, it's still there. But, and parkour also, I would say sometimes the problem is it started with reclaiming and being free. Mm-hmm. And now because it's become popular, we become slave again by copycat and do everything the same. So it's become a fashion phenomenon. And so, I do my corkscrew. And then the move is cool to watch, but the philosophical or the aspect of, remember, the core of it is freedom and to find yourself, but also to connect with your environment. This is the core. You can ignore it, but it's beyond you. Like if you go to Amsterdam or any forest, it's amazing to see like some of the trees were here before our grandfather. Yeah. It's history book. But people say, yeah, what does it mean? It's like, whoa, that's mean you. Like for me, someone who say that is completely disconnected. And he has no sensitivity. He's got no open-minded. He's no awareness. So he has to do a journey to reconnect to that and say, man, it's like you're next to history book. It's a time machine right here. They saw stuff like, they saw us, and with all our story, all our book, and all our knowledge, everything I'm saying, and they're going to see me leaving. I won't be here, and there will be a new generation, and new, and they will still be there. It's amazing.
Yeah. We've been talking a lot about connection, right? The way that I conceptualize what we're doing is we're reconnecting, and we're kind of reconnecting the aspects of the self. So the mind and the body aren't really separate, but we separate them. Right? Yeah. And we have to have ways of cultivating them, of understanding how we think, how we move, how we emote, and our intuition and all those aspects, and being able to better integrate them. And then we need to be able to do that in relationship to the physical environment, right? Yeah. Then we need to be able to do that in relationship to other people. And it's like, if you have a deep connection, if all the aspects of yourself that are internal to you are deeply connected and congruent and they're operating in harmony. And then you're operating in harmony with the natural world. And then you're operating in harmony with the social world and the people around you. That's the way for me.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly hard to do. Like from the environment, you're fighting against how the code of the place where you're living. Like this is it. You don't climb the tree. You're not allowed to. Of stuff like that. After, like, in terms of, like, just personally speaking, like, all the stuff, because we carry all the pain from when we were kids and stuff like that, that's what make our choice on a daily basis, and we need to evolve. So in a personally speaking, you have a lot of walls and obstacles in your head that you have to, like, overcome and go through. So this is a lot of blockage. And now I'm not even talking about community, and because it's incredibly hard to have, without any true, like there is a time where you have ancestry and you've got the elderly who pass on the message and stuff like that. So it was very deep and very connected, you know, but it's been destroyed like at some place. And then we've got no link. We're not linked. We try to link each other, but ultimately we are not. I can take about so many examples. I keep talking about that. Like even like you can talk about culturally speaking. Like we try to say, yeah, we're all like, yeah, the world is open and stuff like that. But in reality, there is a few places where it's very mixed. And some places, no, we stay the way we are and we're not interacting with other people. So there is still a big journey, just community-wise, just to get connected. And people just for you to make people understood what you say to connect, they need to have an open-minded. But if I'm come up with stuff which been taught to me by my family or in my culture, you can say whatever you want. I'll be like, nah. it's like oh.
Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunately, that's what happens with a lot of younger parkour kids, right? It's like,
yeah.
But you know, look, Dom's doing 27-foot front flips. Like that's what I aspire to, which is fine, right? Like there's a stage for that.
Yeah, edge of fire.
Yeah, and
it's normal. Like I say, like fire resonate to fire. Mm-hmm. It's like, this is it. If you water or edge of air, you try to say something to fire, good luck. Because you need to do something from buoyant and something like, that's why some people were very great. Like I say, like Bruce Lee, because they can show fire. So you got the attraction and then they tell you wisdom. So it's like, they're portals. They're like, these people are portals. But if you only, like, I'm only wise, you said, shut up, Seb. So show me something.
Yeah.
But when you can show and then say, okay, now I've got your attention. But remember, and that's what happened in the movie. Sometimes you say something like, I don't get it, but you show something so powerful. I think you got this also in the Peaceful Warrior from Dan Millman?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the same, like, when he starts the story, it's like this guy I love the idea of the guy in the gas station. Sometimes I say, I should do that. Yeah. No one knows that. But I like the idea is that the guy's in the gas station and then up he turns and then he's on the roof and stuff like, how did you do that? So it's just like fire, get your attention, and it's like, man, you're not ready for that because they did. So what? You see, that's kind of this stuff I kind of like. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you can't stop young people from being young, right? And you don't want to. There's a time for it. But there's also a way in which is a trap. It's like you don't want to be exploring your sexuality and feeling attraction and flirtation. It's like, oh, that's a game that's so seductive, right? Mm. But if you devote your life to it, it's not so good.
Yes.
Right? It's like you don't want to be in that stage forever. Yeah. And without good elders, without a good community, without a good sort of structure for people, you can not realize what the game really is, right?
Yeah. It's true.
The game of parkour, maybe it's not to just do the biggest flip or jump, right?
I would say for sure.
Yeah,
it's not even maybe. For me, it's definitely not that. It's just like...
the game of sexuality is ultimately about family formation. That's what it evolved for, right? I think about this idea of like, you want to live your life such that, to the greatest degree possible, there's this kind of, well, Jung had this idea of the self. The self mm-hmm. is the aspect of you that's continuous across time.
Yeah.
But that aspect of you is the capacity for transformation. Mm-hmm. But there's something that's stable and something that transforms. And you want to live your life such that you're always kind of in the best relationship with that. Mm-hmm. So that the transformations, you don't want to sacrifice what you could become for what you are now.
Yeah.
And I see young parkour athletes who are they're so in love with the stage that they're at that they're willing to accept great limitations down the road to get through this, right?
Sounds like sport to me.
Yeah. And I'm like, is it really worth it? You're not making $10 million to do an extra.
That's why it's even worse, because they copycat traditional sport, but we're not in a stage where it's like a football or it's just like, man, you win nothing. Go do some golf or something like that, or Formula One or something where you earn certain, but parkour, you better figure it out, because
you're going to get a hip replacement when you're 35. And the most that you can show for that is that you got like a couple million YouTube views. Right?
Yeah. And even this is just,
maybe you got sponsored by a ramen company.
And even it gets worse and worse, because I think back in the time, having like a million views on YouTube is not the same thing of having million views now. Because there is more people who's got million views. So it's just like, it's still good, but it's not as good as it was before. So people chasing something, it's almost sometimes I say like, it's like a lottery, this scam. Like you always aim for one day I'm going to have million, and then I will have a sponsor, and then I will leave from just putting videos and stuff like people. And for me, it's like, but it's completely out of what we believe. For me, it's just like, no. Connection, true connection. Like for me, I like my Instagram stuff because I can see all my friends stuff like that. But for me, it's like, I prefer true connection. I prefer texting someone, hey, we do this, reply. They ask me a question, I can reply. Like you say, it's about connection. It's about connection.
It made me feel good when I sprained my ankle. And you and Williams Bell both, I don't know if you commented or give a like or whatever, but it's like, it's like guys who are my heroes are giving me a little love and support,
Yeah, that's what I love. People say, I don't like Instagram. I say, hey, you know what? I can speak with my friends, see what they're doing, give some energy back. Like, hey, I feel for you. I'm here. The real, like the real stuff. But it allows us to travel around the world, even like we're still here. But the most important is what you do when you switch it off. It's like because for me, like I don't know if I'm I don't think I'm an example, because I'm living in a bubble. I'm like a Master Yoda, literally. This is my thing. I like to do that. I don't encourage people to do the same. I do have friends. I'm not like completely off. I do have friends, but I like being a little bit out of the society, a little bit. Not in my business. I'm very approachable. I like to teach. Transmission is to the top for me. It's really very, very important. But aside of that, I need to go back into my sanctuary. I need to get back into my sanctuary and not be distracted by the noise of the world. Like, because it's, especially now, it's very, very noisy, very, very powerful. And that's why I don't have TV, don't have radio. I'm not interested in anything people talk. What is the subject of the moment? I like, as soon as like my girlfriend says, I don't care. I don't care. Like, if it doesn't touch me right now, right there, I have no interest in that. I wake up in the morning, you don't see me. Like, I go, like, it can be like 5:30 or sometimes 3:30. I'm doing my thing. I do exactly what the voice tell me to do. I go do my thing. I do my work. I try to inspire people as much as possible, because that's about transmission. They do whatever they want with what I'm going to give. And I move on, because we're not here for long. I don't know what's next, but we're not here for long. So I don't have time to be worried with anything.
I think we all have a need for being part of the community, and then we all have a need for space to pursue what's unique to us, to pursue, like, if you think about that model of the connections, one of those connections is really knowing yourself, right? Mm-hmm. It's very hard to know yourself sometimes in relationship to other people. They can really blind you. You can fit the role. It's like, I'm the class clown, right? Yeah. I'm the class clown, so I go do this. Or one of my students, Andrew, his dad is like music director, and his sister is a scholarship musical student, plays multiple instruments at a major university.
Yeah, so I write while you're talking. I'm just writing because I want to remember what I'm saying.
Yeah, and he because he was surrounded by them, he just didn't think of himself as musical, right? And then he takes himself away, right? He goes to college and he misses something, and he picks up a guitar and he starts playing guitar and singing, and it's like he's not as talented as his sister is, but he's still very talented, right? But he couldn't know that about himself because he couldn't see it about himself in the milieu that he was. And so by taking ourselves away from those other things, I consume too much social media. I have a real hunger for knowing what's going on, trying to understand what's going on.
Okay.
And that's just my nature, and I think that's fine. But it does have this thing where you can get to this point where you're consuming so much that there's no time for your own mind to just think.
Yeah, you said it. This is it. Yeah.
So it's like if you're like, okay, I'm in the bathroom, I'm on Twitter reading about politics, and then I'm making my breakfast, and I'm listening to a podcast, and then just the whole day goes by. There was never a moment where you had a thought, or almost you almost never get to have a thought that's not influenced directly by somebody else's, what they're putting into you or putting out for you to consume.
Yeah. But podcast is good, like we're doing it now.
I love podcasts. I'm not saying that those are bad things. I'm just saying that people need to, I think podcasting has been incredible for me in understanding things better. I think Twitter can be a really powerful tool, but I think it's much more poisonous, right? That's when you have to be careful. But
it's how you use the tools. It's always the thing. It's how you use the tool. Like for me, it's also linked with the people I revere and I admire. And often people talk to me about parkour. That's why I wrote it down. But in reality, I like to draw. I like to move. And the discipline I choose for movement is parkour. I've been chosen by the circumstances to do parkour. That's why I like the pioneer thing, the founders, whatever. For me, it's just like I've been lucky to be there and to have parkour and not another sport or whatever. That's why I'm so pleased. I'm so much into stuff like alchemy. People will say like, what? You see, I'm how do you call it? Like whole civilization will disappear, like megalithic stuff.
Lost
Nikola Tesla, Leonardo da Vinci. You see, those people, like, they're not like, oh yeah, we all together, we all believe the same. Tell me what the society is saying. They're like, they're in another world, and I like that. I like to be in contact with people, but I really believe there is mystery in this world. I really believe that. And the more time goes, like you see, atheists, people don't believe in God. Is that the word?
What was it? Atheist.
Atheist. I believe I was atheist, but now I don't know what is the word, but I don't believe anymore. Like there is nothing. Like,
so we could talk about. So there's an atheist is someone who, theist means believes in God, right? Atheist means doesn't believe in God. It's just I don't have that belief. An agnostic is someone who has the belief that we don't know, right? So you could be an agnostic atheist, right? Which is to say, I don't believe in God, but I don't know that I don't think that I really know.
Yeah.
And the way I describe myself now is actually a non-theist, which is kind of a different way, but I wonder if that might resonate with you. But the idea of a non-theist is that if you imagine that God is like a supreme being that sits in the sky and judges you, right?
Mm.
Like a common theist says yes, and an atheist says no. The non-theist says that's not the right way to think about God.
Yeah.
God is something much more difficult to comprehend than that.
Yeah. Yes. There we go.
Like
that's the thing. Yeah.
The Platonists describe God as the ground of intelligibility, right? Like, why is the world such that we can intelligence? What is the font of of meaning and how things come to be. And it's like, well, that principle, whatever it is what we should be in worship of.
You see, when we've been talking about connecting with stuff, like we talk about community and environment, all this stuff very dear to me. It's very, very important. Knowing also that I'm very careful with the society and the community, because they can make you think like this, and then you can miss the point of where you start to be aware, and then you miss the awareness. That's why I prefer to be in my bubble. And the idea of I'm very careful with the human being. We're very powerful, but also we're very destructive. And everything human being says, I'm just like, I'm not judging, but you know what? I get my right to be to the side. But in my way of living, more time goes and more now I really, it makes me more confident, but I really believe there is something beyond, like something inexplicable, but there is something. Like for me, it's almost 100% sure now. It's just, I would never have anything to prove it, nothing to show, because it's not like this is way bigger than everything we can say with words. But for me, it's like, okay, I got it. And I know why we're so disconnected. Why we can't even understand, because we're already disconnected in a teeny tiny level. We're disconnected with so many stuff. We're just like, whoa. For me, it's like, whoa, we miss it. We miss so many things. We're not connecting to each other. We don't understand balance. We don't understand human body. We're still so focused with sport. Mm-hmm. We don't understand food. We think we need to eat all the same. There is so many things, like, it's like I can make a list of stuff like this. You know me, like with my, I completely rename my whole house. There is like creative room, Zen room, nourish room. So I did my seasonality. I did my maturity level, because I believe like, we have to respect where we are, and like the mind, but in the body, we need to respect. No, like most of the people don't respect it. We shouldn't put in our body stuff will destroy our body. Drinking, smoking. Yeah. It's I'm not judging people. If they do it, they do it. But based on what I really said, you want to understand something. But first of all, we're disconnected. This is all this stuff that disconnected us to everything we've been talking. And play, evolve, move. All this stuff is those words reconnect you. It's make you getting closer. Anything else from me, sir? Okay, guys, enjoy. See ya. I need to go back into my my bubble to meditate and to, again, as I say, it's like if people are interested in alchemy and stuff like that, all this process is linked.
Yeah. How do we? Yeah. You might enjoy my conversation with my friend Dave Wardman. His stuff is called physical alchemy. But I was also thinking in reference to our conversation about Jordan Peterson has 2 chapters. There's a bunch of great chapters in his book, Maps of Meaning. But there are 2 of them that really come up for me. One is Apprenticeship, and the other is the shamanic journey. Mm-hmm. Right? So the apprenticeship idea is we often we want freedom, right? People always say freedom, right? But it's like you can't have freedom without discipline. Mm-hmm. You don't. It's when you're in the beginning of the process, you don't know yourself so well. Right? You're kind of this bundle of undifferentiated potential, right? You're like, what are you? So you have to choose something. And then it's like, in order to do it, you have to be committed. You have to go all the way in. You have to make yourself a slave to it. It's like, make yourself a slave to parkour. You're 19 years old. You're listening to this. Make yourself a slave to parkour for 3 years, right? Be it. And then you'll have some resources. Then you'll know who you are. Then you'll know what you've experienced. So that's one side of the journey. And maybe we always come back to this part of the journey too. But then there's this other end of the journey, which is to say, everything that society tells me is the gap, is the barrier that keeps me from seeing the new solution that society needs. And so I have to have some way to separate myself from it. I have to have some way to break the conditioning in order to reach the next level of freedom.
Yeah.
right? And that's the fasting and the psychedelics and
it's incredibly hard. I think there is something in era, like I don't want to extend too much on this subject, but we're living in an era where there is a lot of it's an attack on freedom. There is a strong attack on freedom. Like some people will not see it because those who are so much used to follow, they will not. But those who are very sensitive and to be, without being too much, to be pioneer and to the concept of pioneering and to find new way, new paths, find your way, and find self-development, stuff like that. Those people are very, very, they feel a strong aggression. And I do feel a strong aggression. And you will never see, for example, on social media, me any comment on anything happening in this world. But I do have a view, and I do feel how I'm attacked. I'm literally, we are attacked. And the beauty, we're not here for long. So for me, it's just like, I do what I do. I enjoy what I enjoy. I inspire who I can inspire. And then after, CR, but there is a battle here. I don't know for what is the reason, what is the purpose, but it's there is something happening. There is a storm's coming. It's like
another idea that I got from Peterson was this idea that there are two kind of heroic. There are two heroic conflicts that we face. Mm-hmm. One is the confrontation with chaos. So that's the something unexpected, the strange, the stranger, the disease, like COVID, right? It's like you're a doctor, you're on the front line, you're trying to figure it out. Like that's heroic, right? You don't know what it is. You don't know the shape of this thing. You don't know how it's going to respond. You don't know what to do. You got to figure it out. But the other aspect of it is the tyranny of society. So we face a problem and we find a solution, and then we codify that solution. We become conditioned to that solution, and a lot of those solutions, some solutions have been consistent forever, and they are really valuable. It's like I'm a big fan of marriage. It's not for everybody, and people should consider whether they need certain flexibility in their marriage and everything. But it's like, children have to come into this world, and they do better when they have committed parents.
Yeah, it's true. But what is marriage? Let's just a teeny tiny thing. When you say marriage, do you talk about marriage? Sorry, do you talk about the relation, the relation and the connection who leads to have another human being, or to educate to get someone around for more community? Or you're talking about marriage, the religion thing?
They're connected, right? So marriage for me fundamentally is a way in which adults choose to have children and to manage their relationships such to serve those children. And a religion is a story in some sense, and a set of norms that help stabilize that. But they can also become tyrannical to it. And so this is I just gave that as an example, but we have some things that have been passed down to us that are really of high value that we always need to go back and remember and keep. And then we have things that are passed down to us that are actually the barriers to us in actually being able to solve the new problems that are arising.
The thing is for me, it's just like, and also it's only my opinion, it's just me, but I felt it's like something is, it's funny because this parkour is the same thing. He started with the roots, with the essence, and it's like, this is right. And it's been taking over, and people doing it just for the sake of doing it, but they completely miss what was the purpose or the essence of it. That's why when we say about marriage, it's like people will say, "Oh yeah, I get married," like it's but and then now they forgot the roots. They forgot the roots, which is the connection. I prefer to have a deeper connection and not having the so-called, like I say, you see when we talk about parkour, the box, which they call marriage. And I believe there is people I can see, they're married, but they're real, like it's very weird when I say, but they're whatever, religious or not religious, but I would say they do it right. This is it. This is it. And other people will do exactly like parkour and say, okay, they do it because it looks good on paper.
They follow the form without having the substance.
Say again?
They follow the form without finding the substance. That's
exactly that. Right. This is it. And the society, unfortunately, have a lot of that. A lot of people follow the form, but they don't understand. And because of you see, when we say everything we say is linked to what we said at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because we practice the essence and we climb the ladder, we do this. It makes us understand whatever you do. You say, now I can understand because you've got a certain knowledge about the essence and the deepest and how it's connected for real. Like why do you think you know about connection for real? Because I practice it. Because I know, I can tell you, like, man, and I want to share it. It's not just even like I got it for me, because I can just having it for ourselves. It's just a gift. It's like, damn it, I felt very blessed. But after the next bit is you want to share it. You want to say, seriously.
Well, that's the other aspect of the hero's journey, right? You go into the world, you confront the dragon of chaos, you bring back the elixir of life, and then you have to take it to society and share it. And so there's this, so what I don't want to dig too deep into the current political situation, but we can see it like this. We can say there's a real dragon, right? And then there's a real responsive tyranny.
Yeah.
So some people say, oh, look, dragon. And they can't see the growing tyranny.
Oh yeah. It's just
some people can see the growing tyranny and are like, no, the dragon wasn't real. But the way that I see it is they're both real.
Yeah. But
and
also,
it's very natural too to respond to the arrival of the chaotic potential by becoming more tyrannical. But we have to find a better way. And I actually think that's really interesting, because when I first, like, I was a kid who read The Lord of the Rings, right? Like for you, Bruce Lee, for me, Tolkien, right?
Yeah.
And
I'm a geek, so I understand also.
Good. So, from 8 years old to 12 years old, I was running around the woods, slaying orcs and dragons, right? With a wooden sword, just all the time, right? And at 12 years old, I remember having this really strong sense of disillusion, right? Like, there's no dragons, there's no orcs. Like, I can never be that hero that I'm imagining, right? Like that's not a professional path. I don't have Aragorn isn't a career path that I can take, right?
Yeah.
And when I saw David jumping, right, it was like, it called to me and said, hey, there's something like that's still out there. And I don't know how much I actually thought this at the time versus these like later thoughts that have sort of interpolated themselves back. But it's almost like I thought, that's the dragon, right? That dragon's actually inside me. And by doing this jump, then I can fight with it and I can learn to become a more heroic person. And so for years, I've been thinking about parkour as like choosing your dragons. Go out and find a dragon that's small enough that you can become stronger, and you beat it and you get the gold, which is your character, which is your growth. But then I had this really interesting idea, which was that you guys, when you started, it wasn't just the dragon. You were fighting the tyranny of society, because we'd all closed the way that we saw how these spaces were.
Yeah.
So the opposite of the other side of the hero who slays the dragon and brings back the gold is the hero who brings back the waters of life to the parched kingdom, right?
Yeah.
And the waters of life are chaos. It's like when things become too stagnant and too controlled and too, everything is this direction, right?
Yeah.
Like then you need somebody to say, okay, but you can climb the wall too. You don't have to walk by it.
Yeah.
You can jump over the staircase. And that's what was revolutionary. It was not just that you chose to take on a challenge. It was that you reimagined how a space that was designated for a specific purpose could be used. It's like it's the same thing that we still need. We always have to confront those two aspects. We always have to become more capable of seeing how society is becoming tyrannical, and more capable of seeing arising threats.
Yeah, for me, I'm very sensitive to that, because as I say to you in previous when we talked together, it's like it starts with pain.
Mm-hmm.
It's like how much was your pain? And for me, society, I had good stuff in my life, okay? But in my youth, in the school and the system of the school, it didn't give me good.
Yeah.
Okay? And I do remember that very vividly. And I do remember the how he works, This guy listen blindly, he's got good grade, he's great, he's almost a genius. This guy doesn't follow, is nothing. Is nothing. And if you have no grade, no diploma, nothing, there's certainly nothing worse, nothing. And I do remember that, like very vividly, just oh, that's my path. This is the path. This, I can see exactly how I'm gonna end up, where I'm gonna be. And I've been lucky, or I choose my path. I choose a different path, which in reality leads to nowhere. If people say, so what are they doing? What is that? This doesn't make sense. It's completely stupid. They waste their time and everything. And there you go. This is who I am now. You see everything I've done after. And then that's why for me, it's so strong in me. I don't mean we shouldn't follow. This is not what I meant. It's just we have to be careful by thinking there is only one way, because it's completely wrong. For me, it's just wow. It's just this is not the way. And that's it. That's why what happened in the society now, it's my hair goes just like that, because it's just whoa. And I can see how people, I can see and I can understand why people can't see, because they're not trained. They're not trained to see through. They're just being trained to follow. And also parkour, the beauty with parkour, we are trained to not be ruled by fear.
Yeah.
Physically. So when people will communicate through us with the langage, through the speaking of fear, we're not jumping into it straight away. Because that's what parkour people does. We're not crazy. I talk those who have a good experience. Yeah. We're not just I've got no fear. This is not no. It's not the way we think. It's we take the information, okay, and we analyze it, and then after we make our own judgment. Mm-hmm. And this is the freedom. I can make my own judgment by crossing the sea, and I can die. Okay, that's also my freedom. You say, oh yeah, but you shouldn't. That's my freedom. That's the concept of freedom with the big F. That's my freedom. But also, I can choose to cross the sea and think and have a plan to do it. That's also my freedom. Mm-hmm. And now it's an analogy, but in reality, now in society, now we're being dictated to do this and this and this for many reasons. But for me, it's interesting. I hear it, but there is another thing, which is my abilities to express myself, feel really attacked.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. Oh, we can agree on that. Yeah, I think we need, my fundamental belief at this stage is that we actually have great institutions and systems that have been great for a long time, but that they've made it too comfortable for us. And we have not cultivated the ethic of self-development, which would make us the type of people that can prevent a system from being corrupted. Because there's no system that is proof against human corruption. So you have, you want virtuous systems, but you have to have virtuous humans to make the virtuous systems.
Yeah. But and the way it's made, like, for example, I don't want to say like, I don't have the knowledge to reshape the society. That's not what I'm saying. But if I look at as a pioneer, I would say like women are different than men. They literally have, like, when no man can say, I understand what it is to have 9 months a life inside me. It's like, you can say whatever you want, you will never understand. Why? Like, women, they're not all perfect, like, you know what I mean? We're all human beings, but by essence, they're about life and protecting and delivering, something like that. Why in the system of the society there is not more women? That's just, for me, it's just like on top of my head. It's like something like, if you see like statue from a long time ago, they're revered women like a goddess, like God, like you see. So for me, people say, yeah, but whatever. Yeah, that's why I say human. I'm very careful with human, because my brain say, I don't understand, but for what I observe, I know my mom, I see my sister, like I can see like I know what it is. I've seen my ex-wife like having a baby, like 9 months you carry. Yeah. It's something like, we talk about journey, the physical journey.
Oh, yeah.
The physical journey. It's not normal. Like in a society, it's not built. Now we talk about elderly, talk about the tree. Mm-hmm. They're not all the old people, they're not all wise. But it's data. It's huge.
Seeing things that we haven't seen, even if they're not wise.
Yeah,
they're sources of information about what the past was actually like, which is it's so important. I've actually been obsessed recently with learning more about the 1960s, because I feel like we're actually still stuck in a culture war that started then.
Yeah,
we're still stuck with these poles of extremities that, like, these were the time when the counterculture threw out everything about the previous culture, and that was too much. And it was also the time when the mainstream culture sort of tacitly accepted the idea that the traditional values were worth sacrificing all ethics for.
Yeah,
the FBI was experimenting on American citizens with LSD. Right?
Okay, I'm not talking about FBI. See you.
So, it's like we're still fighting some of these battles, and it's like, well, my mom was there. I can ask her questions, right? I don't necessarily have to agree with her perception of it, but she has a felt experience of what that time was like that I can't access. Except,
yeah.
And we need to, like, we talked about this idea that the self, you need to be connected to the aspects of the self.
It's like they've got no voice. It's like, for me, like I said, the system has to be like, we need to have a place for the elderly. We need to definitely have a place for women, because they have a say. Of course, I will touch something like this is the point is also, it's like Monopoly. The cards being distributed a long time ago through whatever, battle or sneaky, whatever. And that's what we're facing now. Some people are the position they have, and they hold everything. Like, just I will talk about, for example, no, I will not talk about that anyway. You see what I mean? It's just like, I was shaped. It's just like, it can be better, but because there is some element is not put, it's like, or even culturally speaking, we haven't passed we're not even ready to accept other culture, like each other culture. Like, it's like, for me, it's definitely, we're not here. We think, because as I say, for me, I'm very lucky to be in a geographical place where it's kind of multicultural, like, even if there is difficulty, but it's not the whole world is multi stuff. Via stuff like that, yes, via phone, yeah. But in reality, no. Like religion, did they really talk to each other to accept each other? No. Let's not talk about that. You see, and all this stuff makes us. I think we will need a lot of generation and washing out. Me including me. So it's like next to get to a point. Okay, this is it. But in reality, when I look at it, we talk about the society, it's like, we've got massive hurdle. And there is people who decide for us.
Yeah.
People who've got so much power, they say, you know what? We decide this is where we're going to go.
Yeah.
And it's like, really?
Like the questions of, of broader society, those are, we can get deep into that. But I think what's unique about our conversation and what we can offer is this idea that there's a way for the individual to scale themselves up to be more capable of dealing with the problems, and to create communities, to connect with people through these practices in a way that will prepare us to solve the problems that we face.
Yeah.
We've talked about the idea that, you said in the beginning, there was no philosophy.
Yeah. There is no what?
There was no philosophy in the beginning of Parkour. But the philosophy itself, right? Philosophia, love of wisdom.
Yeah.
The first philosophical dialogues happened at the Greek gymnasia, the academy, the lyceum. I think there was the kinosarges. These were the places where people met to wrestle and box and run and prepare themselves to be soldiers.
But it started in Egypt first. Philosophy.
I'm talking about Greek philosophy. I don't know.
Okay.
Egypt,
yeah.
right?
Okay.
But Greek philosophy.
Greek took it from Egypt.
Did they? I mean, who is the Egyptian who taught Socrates?
Huh?
Who is the Egyptians who taught Socrates?
I don't have to name names, but if you talk about alchemy, for example, and basically Greek rename stuff. Like the god, they rename their god. It's like you take a culture and you rename and say, this is our culture. Philosophy is the same. I don't mean that they didn't debate. The whole idea of philosophy started before them, prior to them. Like they call it Hermes Trismegistus, it's like it's taught, the god taught, Thot, and he had all this wisdom and stuff like that. So all this philosophical stuff. But anyway, we won't extend on this. Yeah. But however, for me, it's very important to. It's the same with Parkour. It's not. It didn't. There is no founders there. It's like it's a lineage. It's long process.
Philosophy. Yeah, I mean, there's elements of philosophy that have developed in lots of places, right? Like obviously, we have an entirely independent tradition in China, which is Confucius.
That was my point. That's why I'm saying. But what I want to say is because why I say that, because it's very important for me, is sometimes we tend to centralize things based on what we learn in school or in the book. But in reality, you've got African philosophy. You've got in Egypt, some people will study whatever they want to study. But then in Asia, you've got philosophy. Mm-hmm. You've got in any place, you've got someone who's got a certain philosophy. And for me, it's something in me refuse to have a centralized place to, especially because of the color of my skin also. Yeah. It's in me. It's linked with the pioneering things and the refusal of the narrative we give to you. It's just like, I'm not a conspirationist. This is not my point. It's just like, as a pioneer or Parkour believer for what we believe, we must always stand to, like, generally speaking, the world is big. It's not central. Like France is not the central of the world. US is not the central of the world. But when we talk about everything, we're talking about the issue in the society is because it's set up like this. It's like, okay, this is how we're supposed to be. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can accept that things develop independently in many places, and also that they don't always develop everywhere, right? Because so you can look at agriculture, right? Agriculture started in the Middle East. And then it used to be believed that agriculture only started in the Middle East and that everywhere else was sort of second to that. Yeah. But it was like, no, actually, that's not true. Agriculture starts in the Middle East. Agriculture starts in China. Agriculture starts in Papua New Guinea. Agriculture starts in Mesoamerica. They're all independent. Maybe they're centers of agriculture. And the same thing is true of philosophy. There's Greek philosophy. There's Indian philosophy. There's Chinese philosophy. All independent. I'm not real familiar with Egyptian philosophy, but I don't think that the Egyptian what I understand about Greek philosophy, I doubt that it's directly just taken from Egypt. I think it's actually much more impacted by Persia and Zoroastrianism.
Okay.
Zoroaster was a huge figure who precedes a lot of what comes in the Greek philosophy. But the thing that I wanted to get at with that, aside from that kind of elements of the history, is the idea that the beginnings of philosophy in the Western tradition, at least, happen through the body. And the same is true to a significant degree in both China and India, because yoga is a philosophical tradition that has a body practice.
Yes.
And Buddhism and Taoism were deeply interwoven with the internal martial arts and the external martial arts, right? The Shaolin Temple is a Buddhist temple.
Yeah.
Wudang.
And it's interesting because they're almost all fucked up. Like no, but if you think about yoga, now if you think about the yoga here, I'm in London. You see the yoga is like it has nothing to do with it's everything is linked with what we said before. Yeah. Again, it's the form, but the essence is just like, what are you doing, guys? It has nothing to do with it's almost like, okay, I'm not interested in that. I'm taking just that. So let's say you talk about the trees and everything. I say, okay, I go with you in the tree. And I say, oh, I'm not interested in this. I still go to the tree. I will wear my shoes. I go every morning. I look at it. I take pictures. I went there. Yeah. That was nice. It's like,
if you walk by a tree, you see a tree, right?
Yeah.
And what do you see? How deeply do you see? Right? Like, if you climb the tree, you see something different. The tree is a very different thing for a person who climbs in it than a person who walks by it.
Oh yeah, big time.
But also someone who gathers from the tree has a new vision too, right? Do you go to the tree to get acorns? Do you go to the tree to collect eggs? Do you go to the tree to collect fruit? Right? Do you go to the tree because you know that it's going to lose some limbs, and that's a source of fiber and a source of timber, whatever it is. All those are layers of knowing. And they give you a deeper sense of it. And a lot of what's happening is that we're seeing something and we're taking a very surface level of it. We're not doing that deep dive, right? There's a lot of lack of depth, which has to do with commercialization a lot. But that's a deeper conversation too. But what I think is interesting is this idea that philosophy should be in. I think of what I'm doing with the Embodiment Play in some sense as the reunification of the philosophia, the love of wisdom, with the gymnasia, the physical practice. Yeah. And I think that at the center of the message that we've been talking about here is the idea that we can't get the virtue and the love of wisdom that we need without having a root in physical practice. We can't make, Jordan Peterson has said that, he talks about the idea that in the Bible, the chosen people become Israel. And Israel is the name that's given to Jacob after he wrestles with God, right? It means wrestles with God. And he says, okay, well, maybe that's the right relationship to think about how we should relate to God. It's not just like, I've accepted the proposition that Jesus was my savior. It's like, you actually have to wrestle with the idea. You have to think deeply about it. But I was like, well, how do you become the type of person who can take that on if you don't wrestle? Mm-hmm. And if you go back to the Stoics too, they said this, that philosophia is wrestling in the mind.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I really like
that. You have to have the mentality of the wrestler, of the parkour athlete. To me, that's the root from which we can cultivate the virtues that we need to be the type of people that can take on the challenge.
Yeah, but only a few also can get that. Like how the society is shaped, in my opinion, only a few are in a position to get some. I say that it's a bit tough, but yeah, because I don't know, maybe it will take time, but I'm very disappointed about the society now from what I've seen with the event now. I really felt like, wow, this is the best we can do. Honestly,
it's not good.
I'm in my bubble, And I literally realized, that's why I think I posted something about freedom. I knew, like I say, I'm not completely naive about freedom. I know we're not completely free, but the more time goes, the more I realize, well, I'm one of the, I'm not free for sure, but from all the people who are not free, I'm the luckiest. I'm one of the luckiest.
Yeah.
With all the people who, all the people who are not free, I'm one of the luckiest.
Yeah. There's freedom. There's a vision of freedom, which is total freedom of action, right? And that's not realistic. And it's like some of the things you would express, like it's have you ever read Crime and Punishment?
No.
Right. Crime and Punishment is a novel by Dostoevsky, and it's about, like, a lot of what it's about really is the idea that that if you take on the idea of freedom as the highest ethic,
yeah,
that, there's nothing that's denied to you, right? If you are the overman and you can see that killing somebody would make the world a better place, then you have the right to do that.
That's what AI is going to do.
Yeah. And so there's certain things that we want to be, you want to be enmeshed in responsibility because it gives meaning to life. It's like you cultivate certain types of freedom. You want to have the options to serve the responsibilities that you have.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you don't want to be free to not care for your children.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Give them what they need.
Yes. Yeah. But again, like freedom for me has nothing to do with this idea of being reckless.
Mm-hmm.
You see, for me, it's more freedom of for me, it's all about self-development. It's like, and again, it's linked with my journey in school. It's like we are more than what we have become, and is that what they give to us is the best we are supposed to have? And for me, it's like absolutely not. It's a lot of stuff is linked with money, linked with interest, linked with tradition. It has been done like this, so what do you want to change it? The kind of stuff like that. But in reality, I believe, my God, we can be more than that. We can literally be more than that. It will take time. Hopefully we get there, but everything is linked with that. And for me, that's why like the freedom say everything you want to do. And it starts with something very simple. You go in the bench, you do balance on the bench. Say, oh, what are you doing on the bench? You're not supposed to do that. Yeah. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm not damaging it. I'm not making it dirty, whatever. But, people already start to put their stuff on you and say, okay, so does that mean I need to have my own bench in my garden and doing my own thing, and then I can create my own stuff? Like now we've got iPhone or whatever, we've got laptop and stuff like that. But someone who fight to do it. It didn't like, oh yeah, I make it. Okay. If someone fight to get his ideas done, like I said, because also I'm a drawer, he had an idea, he draw it, he make it with many people, they get together, they did. And now we all say, oh, hallelujah, this is good, this is brilliant. But in reality, it's just like, that's mean you can create, you can come up with something like absolutely amazing. Mm-hmm. But like we say, the environment prevents you like to do exactly this. Your surrounding also prevent you, and also yourself. Because if you haven't been taught properly, but everything goes like you're being suppressed. Yeah. That's why, like for me, when I do stuff, I can feel like say, oh my God, I've got ideas, but my ideas can be suppressed. And the recent events show that again. It's like we're not ready yet. Yeah, probably that's it.
So
in the lifetime,
you have a freedom that I don't have, which is the freedom to create art that represents something in your mind, because you've taken on discipline to cultivate skill that gives you that freedom.
Like what? Sorry, again? I missed.
So if I have an image in my head, something I want to capture and put on paper, and it would help me understand something or help me represent to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like I want to make a video, I want to storyboard it. I don't have the skill. So that option is closed to me. You have this option. You can say,
but you can talk. You can ask someone to do it for you.
I can, but it's not the same. Like I'm trying to create an image for my brand, which is a dragon wrapped around. So there's a dragon, and then the base is the hero confronting the dragon, and then the yin yang coming up with the representation of the different aspects of how we train in that, right? So within that is where we train. So I can imagine it, but I can't draw it. but you can draw it, right? You could draw the image if you had whatever image you have in your head. Now you have some freedom to achieve it, and it's you have it because of discipline.
Yeah, because of
chosen.
Yeah,
to put in the time.
Yeah,
and we, as with children, we have to discipline them to some degree, right?
Yeah,
if we want them to have, they can't always see the type of options that they'll want in the future.
Yeah,
we want to give them as wide a set of options as possible.
Oh yeah, they need to go through the training. They need to go through trial and error and stuff like that. Like I say, sometimes like in my past, because I certainly evolved with school and stuff like that. But for me, first of all, I think I had a lot of incompetent teacher, and they were not trained properly. They were not storyteller. They were not able to, because for me, teaching is a high skills. They are not able to inspire. Mm-hmm. They have their own issues. Some of them are on their own issue that pass on us. And the stuff was more set up for race, which we know when we do parkour, it's not about competition, mm-hmm. But everything was set up for race and to a grade, which means nothing. And also like accumulating a lot of information, which some of them you will never use. So it's good to be to train to be able to retain information and to learn something. But also more important is to give them the ability to choose to hold them accountable. So you need to stick to that, but also to let them choose a path, what they want to do. I give an example. I always say that I'm a speaker. Mm-hmm. I'm teaching physical activity, and I'm drawing. When I was in school, there was keep saying, this guy is just like keep chit-chatting. He's never stopped talking. Okay. He's never listening because he's always looking in the sky and somewhere else, observing everything. It can't stay in one place. It's always moving. Okay. And when it's time to write it down, what we say to write it down, he spends his time to draw. And that's why for me, it's like sometime, okay, it's just like, and that's why I say it's the pain. It's always like start from the pain. But I always say, sometimes I say, it's incredible because I knew from day one. I knew it. It wasn't, I had to go through the practice because it's not like I knew she should leave me free and stuff like that. No. You need guidance, definitely, for sure. You need someone to say this. But you need someone to tell you, like a good mentor, you know what? I think some people have that. Some people say, you know what? You've got something special. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you like a flower to raise and to go to flourishing.
I did a TED talk actually about how play reveals what we should pay attention to in some sense.
Mm-hmm.
You need to give children lots of playtime because the way that they play will tell you the things that they are inherently driven towards, which is where the genius will be.
Yeah.
If you have freedom and you go and you draw and you go and you do more movement, it's like, well, those are the things that we need to educate you in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We also need to keep you also need some strength over here in this thing that you don't necessarily enjoy sometimes. Like we have to balance.
Oh, yeah.
But if we don't respect the self, the child, the individual, if you like, even as an adult, like it's like, go do parkour, go do martial arts, go do this, go do that. And you'll know what you really like. And then that'll tell you what you should be focusing.
Yeah. I think I've been absolutely, like I say, I've been very blessed to have parkour. Yeah. And also, not only parkour, but also to have the interest for movie.
Yeah.
Because everything I watch from the movie and from also Dragon Ball, all this stuff, people say, oh, it's just an anime and stuff like that. I say, no, it's not. It teaches me to be relentless, resilience, to train hard, and to go through pain. Like pain is good. Usually pain is not good. But through all this anime, I'm not talking about pain like punching someone, the pain of like, oh, God, come on, I need to keep on going because all this stuff. It's in school, they will never taught me that. Never. I know. And I had some, like I say, I've got many teachers, but they can't teach you this kind of like this idea of like, come on, Ali, one more. You know, you feel it. Rocky, you watch Rocky, it's the same. You feel like every martial art, you see this, come on, this kind of transformation stuff. By myself, oh yeah, go draw. It's not enough. You need some piece of the puzzle. And parkour get me that, being with David and all this training. And for me, as I say, I talk about David because mainly I was with David. And this is David with the training.
He's your guide, in a sense, right? In the hero's journey, he was the guy who showed up for you and initiated you onto that.
Yeah. Bruce Lee give me the key when I was missing. David was the friend, the brother I had on my journey to do my journey. Yeah. And along this journey, I had other brother because it's my cultural, like all the Yamakasi guys, they're my brother because we're in the same generation. There is different generation. The parkour from the 80s, the parkour from the 90s, the parkour from 2000, there is different generation. It's not the same. And, but I've been lucky to have that. And that makes who I am now. That's why I've got resilience. I'm very tough to pain. You know, it's like, you see, I broke my arm. I see my bone in my head. So I was in training mode. Okay, I'm going to go, stuff like that. But then I can miss something artistically and you will see me crying like a baby. Mm-hmm. Because I've got the sensitivity on one side and I've got this toughness from this side. And I've been blessed to have this in my journey. Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I got to get ready for my next meeting.
How long did we spoke for? I have no idea.
Over 2 hours.
Oh, no.
As usual.
Normally it was 90 minutes, right?
Yeah, 90 minutes. It's okay. I kind of thought that would happen. It's always, you know, we just have so much we share in common. So thank you again. And I'm really looking forward to, I hope to come visit you in the UK or you come over.
Oh,
here.
yeah, please. And I definitely want to come with you. Yeah. All the stuff you do, you know, I watch, I say, oh my God, it interests me. It's so cool, so refreshing. Like for me, again, I like it because also you're an adult. You know, I like to be with kids around because for energy, like fountain of youth. But I like to gravitate around adults who can say also to me, you're wrong, I disagree and stuff like that. Yeah. It's so important. And that's it.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you, Seb. Do you have anything going on this Foucan Free Running Academy?
I keep on doing my business. That's it. I still in my bubble. I love World Chase Tag. That's what I do.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about World Chase Tag. I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm an advocate of this because
we gotta spar. I had those guys on, and we'll talk more about that in the future. Thank you very much, Seb.
We're on the same page on this, definitely.
Hey, you've reached the end of another Evolve, Move, Play podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, if you want to be involved in the conversation, please consider joining us in our new membership subscription so you can get access to question and answers with our live speakers once a month, question and answers with me once a month, and a dedicated forum to discuss everything going on in the podcast, as well as a general discussion of movement on our general movement forums. If you're interested in that, make sure to check out the link below, get signed up, and join a part of our membership community. If you can't join our membership community right now, it's still always helpful if you can like, share, and subscribe, and even hit that bell and get notifications for upcoming Evolve, Move, Play podcasts. But adios for now, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.